Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy and America live Facebook series. We have a very, very special guest host tonight. She needs no introduction. Everybody already knows her who's going to be watching this. Adriana Trigiani. And I am going to take advantage of her effusive personality and let her take over and introduce our special guests.
Okay, the pressure's on, Miles.
Yes.
Thank you for those beautiful compliments, because you know what? I appreciate them down to my bones. I would like to introduce two of my favorite people, a mother-daughter team. You haven't heard that since, I don't know, the Barnum and Bailey Circus, but these are two brilliant women, two beautiful women, two Italian-American women. And it's very exciting because this is what our grandmothers worked so hard to achieve. Tonight, you will see two examples, this mother-daughter team, of what all our immigrant foremothers and fathers put all their energy into when you hear about where they were educated, what they have accomplished, and we're going to talk about their dreams of the future. So first, let me begin with Francesca Saratella, who is to my left. I'm very bad with right and left. Francesca is a New York Times bestselling author and columnist. She grew up in the Philadelphia area. I love the King of Prussia Mall so much, Francesca. I hope you spend a lot of your time there. She graduated cum laude from Harvard University. That's right, Harvard, where she won multiple awards for her creative writing, including the Charles Edmund Horman Prize and LeBaron Russell Briggs Prize. Her senior thesis was a novella, and it was awarded these very, very high honors, and it won the Thomas T. Hoops Prize. She also performed in choir and musical theater, in particular the Harvard Radcliffe, Gilbert and Sullivan Society productions, because she was very cool and obviously very talented.
Yeah, nerd alert.
Let me tell you what, because when you go to a school that's Harvard or Harvard friendly, they will cut you. They will cut you. You don't think that they struggle to get in there and then they're not going to cut you. They're going to cut you. Upon graduation, Francesca moved to New York City. She lives right by me and I'm so happy, with a suitcase and a puppy. And this is also something I want you to understand. These are animal lovers.
Big time.
I mean, they would rather post pictures of animals than their books. The puppy was her happiness insurance, and it worked. She began writing and researching her first novel, Ghosts of Harvard. You guys, it's a very, very accomplished first novel. And everybody loves it that reads it, and millions have. She began writing and researching this story while she was at Harvard. While working on the novel, she also co-authored a best-selling 9-book series of essay collections with her mom, which we all own. The best-selling author, Lisa Scottolini, who's right under her in the, I would say it's the Bobby Brady square on my computer. They co-write a Sunday column entitled Chick Wit in the Philadelphia Inquirer, one of our favorite newspapers, as Miles has pointed out. Francesca lives in New York, right near me in Greenwich Village, with her dog Pip and cat Mimi, and she's hard at work on her next novel. Now, you don't get to be this without this.
It's the truth.
I mean, it's really the truth.
I learned from the best.
I think you did, and we're going to get into that. Now, let me say a few things about Lisa Scottolini. Everybody loves you, Lisa, so, really.
You're too sweet.
I'm starting to hate you here.
No, we love each other deeply, as you know.
We're very much in love. Okay. Lisa Scottolini is the #1 best-selling author, the New York Times best-selling author, and Edgar Award-winning author of 33 novels, including her latest work, Eternal. Everybody pre-order, please. March 23rd, 2021. It's her first ever historical novel. I endorsed it. It's a page turner. You will love, love, love it. Now, go to your local indie. They will pre-order for you because we want to help the small businessman. We are Italian. And as you know, we were all our parents and grandparents were on on some level, at some point, self-employed, which means you never went on vacation.
It's really true.
It's so true. They were like,
So
if we
true.
cut out a week, we'll lose $37. Okay. Now, I also want you to understand that it's a very rare club that's the #1 status, okay? And Lisa rocketed to #1, but she worked hard to get there, okay? I just want to point that out. But to be #1 is a really, really big deal.
But it did take 30 years, so it was a very slow rocket. The rocket kind of went like this, and then it went like this. And then
It was more like one of those, what's it called? It wasn't a rocket. It was that thing that what is it called that whizzes around?
Oh, whirligig.
Yes.
A whirligig, yeah. That was my, that was my first and second
But you did
marriage.
great.
Yeah.
She writes the weekly column, as I aforementioned, with Francesca for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Chick Wit, which everybody sends around and loves. And it's just a fun take on life from a woman's perspective. Those stories, along with other never-before-published stories, have been collected in the New York Times bestselling series of humorous memoirs, including their most recent, I See Life Through Rose-Colored Glasses. Very Irma Bombecken, very cool. And earlier books, I Need a Lifeguard Everywhere But the Pool. Hilarious. I've Got Sand in All the Wrong Places. Also hilarious.
But true.
Does This Beach Make Me Look Fat? Have a Nice Guilt Trip. Meet Me at Emotional Baggage Claim. Best Friends, Occasional Enemies. My Nest Isn't Empty. It Just Has More Closet Space.
Aw.
I'm thinking of taking over my kids'
Don't
closet.
be
That's
sad.
so funny. And Why My Third Husband Will Be a Dog, which has been optioned for television as should, just based on the title. Lisa reviews pop fiction and nonfiction, and her reviews have appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. She's been president of the Mystery Writers of America, but here's what you need to know. She's an attorney.
Don't tell him that. I want him to like me.
An attorney. No, are you kidding? I have a sister
You
that's
like
an attorney,
lawyers.
and it's like the one thing you never get from an attorney, even if they love you, is free advice. You hear the egg timer going, nobody's going to ask you for free advice.
Tick, tick, tick. 15 minutes.
Now, Lisa is always on the bestseller list, and the big ones: Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Pub Weekly, Washington Post, LA Times. Look Again was named one of the best novels of the year by the Washington Post, and really it's I hate to say it, but it's one of the last places where the really intelligent reviewing of books is happening. Over your career, Lisa, it's gone from where you would get, I'm not kidding, 357 reviews. Those newspapers have shuttered, which is a sin, and we're down to 4 or 5, and people get really excited when they're our beloved People magazine book of the week.
Right, right.
Lisa's greatest accomplishment is in the,
Is that kid?
I forget which Brady is it? The
It's
Brady.
that beautiful daughter of mine.
She's so beautiful. You
That
should
is
be proud.
Not that she's my accomplishment, but that's the thing.
Now you pour yourself into your books. Yeah, but you know what? That's what they said in The Ghost of Mrs. Muir. Lucy Muir said it to the maid. She said, I can't take any credit for that kid. Played by Natalie Wood, by the way, who grew up and they recast her with someone that didn't look at all like Natalie Wood, which
Wait, I thought it was some blonde lady, Barbara Bel Geddes.
She was blonde. She came home. Well, that was the style at the time.
No one knows this. We are dating ourselves so badly.
No. Oh, you can't.
Francesca's like the ghost and what? Like
This is Muir. No, I'm talking about with Gene Tierney.
Oh
I
my
wasn't even
God.
born. It was like 1948. Okay. Lisa's, okay, so, okay. Yes, I have to say all of these
Get
things.
it,
You're a
we get it.
vegetarian. You're a
what?
vegetarian. You golf. You're a diehard Eagles
No, I
fan.
don't golf. I don't know why.
And a
someone
good
said
cook.
that.
Well,
I
now
don't
we're
golf.
getting into grinder territory, and we don't want people to sweat left.
I walk on the beach. I like
and daughters of
music.
Italy.
I like opera. Of course, I like opera. It's Italian. My daughter.
I
was
know,
like,
well, it's like Mario Cantone says, when you hit 50, you love opera, and he doesn't understand why.
I love him so much.
Prior to 50, you go, ooh, and then when you're
I like
50,
it.
suddenly, you do like it, Francesca?
I introduced her to opera.
She did.
Let me say this about opera, and don't anybody write in and don't get mad at me, but you know, I was taken to the opera several times when I first came to New York, and I had a little bit of a problem. I mean, if I closed my eyes, I was fine, but they're not the best looking people. And I like people in entertainment not to look like me. I want them to be absolutely
listen.
drop dead. I'm serious. And the men, I mean, they're having these wild, passionate affairs with like the soprano, but they're
No, you got to see it more recently. Now
Oh, there's a hottie McHottie that Mario Cantone and I went.
Our acting skills and these angelic voices, they're powerhouses, the beautiful women, kind of hot guys, you know? I mean,
Well, it took 100 years.
Yeah.
I figured it out because it was bad. It was bad up to 6 months ago. So I'm glad to hear that, Francesca, that they're better looking. But anyway, let's. Why don't we start with that?
Opera.
We're going to start with opera because
We're all over it.
because I think it's important because we owe, as women authors, a lot to Enrico Caruso. And you might say, why do we owe him anything? Because he was he was really the only who agreed to have his voice recorded. Everybody else thought, ew, we're not doing that. It's beneath us. But he said, and this is why my grandmother loved him, who emigrated over from the Italian Alps. He said, opera is for the working person.
Ah, I didn't know that.
So he recorded it. And that's why you don't have the other greats of that time, but you have Geraldine Farrar because he made her do it. Huh. He was such a great character, but what he tapped, because that's when American music changed, because prior to 1918, music was the music of kings. You know, it was that horrible banging of the, what is it called?
The organ.
Yeah. And so what he carved the path with was he made the way for the big band sound, which was the first time that working class people were on the stage, including folks like Frank Sinatra that you love, but also writing the music. Arrangers like Henry Mancini, the guys out of, I could keep going, where we became part of the pop culture. Now, one more thing, and then we're going to start talking.
Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett, whom we love. We love Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett. Also was in that crew. And these bands toured and they played Saturday nights, and our grandparents and great-grandparents would dance. Every Saturday night there was a dance. And that's how they met their husbands and so on. But for the first time in the history of the world, they were working in factories, and on Saturday night would go see in the band and on the stage singing their own people. Italian Americans are embedded in every art form in the United States of America, and we owe them everything. And so it is no accident that you could publish a book, Lisa Scottolini, an Italian name, and Francesca Saratella, an Italian name. So I'm going to punt it first. Let's go with your mom first. Lisa, what does it mean to you to be Italian American? And when you hear me say these things, what does that mean to you?
Well, it just means everything. And the interesting thing about like my mother, whom we write Mother Mary, we write about her, and she had a wooden spoon, she was so feisty, but the amazing thing about my mother is she was the youngest of 19 children. Now imagine that. Most of them were born in Italy. She was Abruzzese. So when we were raised, I always thought, like, I'll say I'm Italian. It was funny because I remember when we were little, somebody had white bread in school, and she said, that's so Metagon. And we just used the term Metagon. I don't even know what it meant until I remember the day. I was like in middle school. We called it junior high. And somebody said, Metagon means American. And I was like, I'm American, right? Like, it was so other. But what I love about this culture is everything. I think it defines me. But I think best of all is its emotionality, that we give ourselves permission to have a lot of emotionality. So opera is the perfect example. These stories will make you cry. They will wrench your guts. When Rigoletto finds the bag, and he opens the bag and it's his daughter. Like you say, this book Eternal, which I do want to show you because I have a copy. Beautiful.
Look at that cover. I wish I had the cover.
But
I love the cover.
I just got this, but
it's very Gone with the Wind looking.
It's so great to just say, and I think we do this every day in our culture, in the storytelling that we do. You don't have to be an author, God knows. You just go, give yourself full permission to feel all of your emotionality and express it and not hold back. And that's why I think it's a really healthy thing that we are and that we do. And I'm really grateful that I was born into it, because I think it's why I don't have an ulcer. You know, I just like, blah. When Francesca and I, will, you know, we're really close, but we love each other. We hug each other. We kiss each other. We fight. We're like this. We're everything. It's all out there. There's just like you, Adriana. Nothing's hidden. It's just there.
Yeah.
What was your biggest life lesson from your mom, Lisa?
You know, I think it was really be yourself. And that's something that is always right. Like, because I think a little bit that ends up being, at least for my job, about the authenticity of voice. Yeah. So I remember like almost all of my books have Italian American heroines. That's and right. I remember when I first did that. And I was like, well, if you're going to write about an Italian American lawyer who lives in South Philly, which is sort of where I grew up, I was like, well, her mom's going to be in her face. Her dad's going to be in her face. Her Uncle Tony's, and she's going to have 3 of them. And I was like, I'd never seen that in a legal thriller before. Mm-hmm. But I just said, you have to just be yourself. And that's basically what I told you, right, honey? I mean, I have no other good advice.
Oh, please. No, you've taught me plenty, but absolutely. Just that.
Francesca, talk about what it means to be Italian to you, and then we'll talk about your relationship with your mom from your point of view.
Yeah, you know, to me, I think it's really this wonderful and beautiful shared value set of everything that's really important to a life well lived, and a grounded heart, you know, family, the importance of finding beauty, but not necessarily, that doesn't mean sugar-coated and perfect, but just beauty in the depth of emotion, you know, like we're talking about opera, the arts, you know, the intangible things in life that make, you know, a beautiful meal shared with people you love. And also I think it's an approach to the world which is so open, you know, just sort of this brave, open, courageous heart, you know, which is ready to suffer life's slings and arrows, you know, we feel suffering deeply, but always believe that you can, you know, come out of it and love passionately and argue fiercely, but always come together at the end, always with that optimistic core that we can come together again, we can heal, we can rise, we can move forward, and work ethic too, you know, work ethic, but not tied to money, tied to passion, tied to conviction, tied to belief. And I'm so grateful that I have those values to guide me always, because they've never let me down, and I think have brought a richness to my life in the ways that really matter most.
It's interesting you bring up something, and I know you both spent a lot of time in Italy. They don't accumulate. When they inherit something, our Italian relatives, they just pass it down, but right. They are stewards of the things that they possess. They're stewards. They take care of it so that your mother has something, then it will go to you, Francesca, right? Exactly. Now, most people feel that way, but the Italians do something interesting that's a little different. It's not about accumulation. Can you speak to that? I mean, it's not even accumulation in your refrigerator.
Right.
They buy fresh every day. I try to live like that. And people go, where's your stuff? I don't have it. But do you do that? And
absolutely. I mean, I've experienced that, of course, generationally in my own family. I have so much of my grandmother's jewelry that is so much more meaningful to me.
Aren't you lucky?
Right? Well, it's not, I mean, it's
what about those other 19? Well, no, she was one of 19. Are you the only granddaughter?
I am, but I'm the only grandchild. But I just mean it was so sentimental. You know, it was always about the sentimentality behind it. So not only have I experienced that generosity within my own family, but, you know, I studied abroad in Italy. I do speak Italian. And when I studied there, I was staying with a family who was so wonderful. And we moved around different regions. So I wasn't with the same family for very long even. But this wonderful family that I stayed with, I remember I complimented the mother's shoes. And of course, then you have to she gave them to me right on the spot. You have to take them. Mind you, I'm not even her size. They're a little too small for me. But you know what? I took those shoes home. I still have them.
Yes.
I still cherish them. I keep in touch with this family on Facebook. They are so wonderful. They still, call me that Sorella, I'm just their sister. And I remember them so fondly. And if they ever needed anything and they came to the United States, I mean, they have a place to stay. They have shoes to wear that just might be a little bit big for them. But it was so lovely.
Isn't that fantastic though?
Yeah.
So you're like your mother. You don't leave people in your life. You maintain these relationships.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I try to
All
explain that.
girlfriends have been my best friends since I was 12. I have like a group of 5 girlfriends.
Good.
We've never even had a falling out since literally I was 11 years old, and still to this day, we all keep in touch.
You can't appreciate this yet, but it's a very Italian thing that people that knew you when you were young are your treasures as you go on.
Yes.
Because they're honest with you.
And also they know, like I think of it sometimes with writing, and that there's something, because I know the people that I know, I know their context. Like my best friend is also Italian. We've been friends for 45 years. I knew her parents. She knew my parents. So we have this, she has a grandkid. Somebody in context, and when you know somebody that way, you're an invaluable resource to them in a way, and they are to you. There's something about it that is, you can't replace it. You just can't.
My mother used to say it like, you make your bouquet, these friends. At the end of your life, you have this, you can't even imagine the amount of flowers you're holding that are these people through your life that are part of your life. And one of the things that was a little shocking, Francesca, because of course I love Francesca because I met her through Lisa, but still I would love Francesca on her own.
Aww.
If she was an island, I would love Francesca. So one of the things I noticed when I got into the book world was that the authors did not really connect very much. And the first author, that very successful best-selling author that connected with me, well, there were 2, Lisa Scottolini and David Baldacci.
Oh, that's so funny.
Both Italian, really. So interesting, because then I started to go, well, what is the point? If we're going to go to all this stuff, let's make friends with folks.
Right. It really goes to that, I think, that openness and that desire for connection in a really fearless way. I feel like our culture, our American culture these days, is so guarded. And we put so many walls up, and we categorize ourselves and, decide by a series of labels whether or not we're going to interact. Even so many things, the most romantic things in our life, dating, is now on an app on the phone. It's like no human connection. And I feel like, as an Italian American, I crave that human connection. There's no substitute for it, although Zoom's a pretty good medium, but I can't shake it. So I carry it with me wherever I go. I've always said, as an author, I think that you can sort of split writers into 2 different categories. And I'm not even doing a value judgment, or not much of one, where, one type is sort of the classic, introverted writer who, the Hemingway type, writes to explore within, explore themselves, doesn't really want, have to get on the other side of the signing table, but yet can reach real great depths and insights that are shared through the books. Then there is an even older archetype, and that's the storyteller. The one who from centuries ago has been telling tales to hold a group of people enthralled, and to entertain them, and to move them, and to maybe frighten them, and to bring them back. And there's that type of, artist as well. And I really feel like my mom and I are, and you probably too, are much more that latter type, where I write for it to be read. I write to form that connection with a reader, with somebody who I've never met, who then can be as close to my heart as a dear friend. And I think in a way that's very Italian.
Now, who was the first Italian author you read, Lisa?
Well, besides David and you, I mean, I
like when you were younger.
I love David's. You know what? There wasn't one. I mean, I can't think of one. More recently, I fell in love with Elsa Morante. Elena Ferrante, of course, all of that stuff, the
I
Neapolitan.
know that's so interesting, but I wish Elena would come out and like be.
I say who she is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of important.
I'll tell you who's great. It's an older author, of course, now passed, but Elsa Morante wrote a book called History. She was really amazing. I mean, it's unfortunate because sometimes I feel that, you know, our culture, we're very loving. Like my parents, I always say my father loved me. I'd be at a signing, my father would come. And one day somebody said to my father, you must be so proud of her. And he said, lady, I was proud of her the day she came out of the egg. And that's a true story. Like I had so much unconditional love. I put that in the books. Like all the people are loved.
You can tell you're secure.
I'm
You're
just
secure because you were
like,
loved.
if I farted, they were like, oh, look at that.
Really? How
Right.
many kids were in the family?
Just me and my brother, and they loved us to the marrow. But I got to tell you, you know, the only downside is I'm not sure that I ever got the message. You can achieve something. They only wanted me to be happy. So my mother spent a lot of my childhood saying, stop reading, it'll ruin your eyes. And I'm like, but I want to be this and I want to be that. And she's like, get a B, get a C. I was like, what? Yeah, so
But don't you think she just saw that the drive was already in you, so you didn't need to get, you know, lashed? If anything, you needed to know that it was okay.
Maybe.
It wasn't perfect.
Maybe. And I do think she had a wonderful attitude that was, don't sweat it so much. I'll let Francesca tell the story. We've never told this outside of our family. I don't know if you want to tell it, but I'll start it because when my mom was ill and passing, she lived here. And Francesca came, we all lived here and we took care of her in hospice. And Francesca was very close to her. Anything, we called her the grandmother whisperer. She could get my mother to do anything. And towards the end of her life, she had lung cancer, so she couldn't speak. So she wrote everything on a little board. The weird thing about this is, the great thing about this is that we took pictures of the boards. So you want to tell that part? Because I can tell you her last words, which to me
Well,
is.
I mean, I wouldn't say her last words, but yeah, I mean, I was here for months and they were just these months that I cherished so much, even
Did her nails.
some of it, I'll say it. So I get to, you know, the hardest, even though it was the hardest time and the toughest time, we also had lots of laughs and weirdly, you know, really good times too. But I remember the time I had just broken up with a very long-term boyfriend, but then my grandmother got sick, frankly, put everything in perspective. But my uncle told me, you know, don't tell Mom that you broke up because let's let her think that you're like settled with this guy. And even when he said it, I was like, that doesn't really sound like my grandmother. My grandmother was always the type who, you know, would tell me if I was dating a guy and she'd go, are you exclusive? And I would say, yes, of course we are. She goes, why? She used to always say, like, date around, you're not married. What are you doing? So I didn't know if I shared this, but
wow, is that so correct?
Right? I was so discombobulated that I agreed with him. So I hadn't told her. And then it was one of these days where, like my mom said, you know, toward the very end where she wasn't able to speak that much. So we would just hang out, me and her, eat Entenmann's donuts, watch Paternity Court, watch Judge Judy, you know, the classics.
Judge Judy is really, you know, you're dying if you have that show on a loop. My mother had Judge Judy on too.
Yeah, it's the
show. It's the show they feel.
Yeah,
you know, maybe they're preparing to meet their maker where he goes, you're in, you're out. I don't know. But
if you don't have any
show.
Judgment Day.
People in hospice.
So we were watching it and I was just sort of trying to entertain her and talk. And I find myself doing this monologue where I'm confessing to the breakup, but sort of apologizing and sort of trying to reassure her that I'm going to be okay.
You're like, no, I don't want to ruin your day, but
right. I was like, I got to be real. We never had secrets. So I'm telling her the whole story and I'm like, but I really tried my best, but I think it just wasn't to be and it's hard to accept, blah, blah, blah. I'm like going on and on and on doing a monologue. Then she like taps her little hand to get my attention and she wrote on the little whiteboard, all like with such seriousness, like she was really writing something. I'm waiting in anticipation, a bead of sweat on my brow of what's she gonna write to me. She writes, and then she turns it around and it says, life motto, who needs it? And it was just, ghost.
That's so great.
Isn't that so great?
Out laughing, and I burst out laughing. And then she said to me, you know, even though it was a little difficult for her, she still was able to say, you know, don't worry, kitten, you're going to be fine. You're going to find love. You're going to be wonderful. And it was just this, she always had this really grounded perspective, you know, of what really matters, of what to let go of, to have that self-compassion, compassion for others, compassion for yourself, and always that optimistic heart, you know?
How were you like the moment it happened? I'm assuming you were with her. Or did she go to sleep?
That's an interesting thing to ask. Yeah, so I would be staying with her 12 hours and more a day. You know, I was with her all the time. And I think it was my mom and me and my uncle. We were sort of would take shifts. And right when I had around midnight, my uncle came down and was like, you know, you get some sleep, I'll sit with her. And I said, okay. And I just went just upstairs. I was sleeping right upstairs, you know, so I wasn't far. And I went to sleep, and suddenly a few hours later, something just woke me up. I woke up like this feeling that I had all throughout my body of, like, it really felt like something just ripping through the center of me. I thought I was going to be nauseous. I thought I was going to be sick. So I like went hurtling into the bathroom, dry heaved, nothing came, but I had just felt this like navel to throat, what felt like, I can only describe as this like tearing feel. And I sort of like, you know, sat in the bathroom floor on the cold tile and just like tried to splash cold water in my face. Had no idea what that was. And I lay back in bed. And as I lay in bed again, I heard my uncle downstairs going, Mom, Mom, Mom. And it was really the instant that she passed that I felt something. And, you know, you write a book called Ghosts of Harvard, and people ask if I'd ever had an experience with a ghost. And I had already started the novel when that happened, but it probably remains one of my toughest to explain experiences. And, you know, sometimes I was hesitant to talk about it for a long time because it was this painful thing. I wish that it had been this welcoming, warm feeling that I had rush over me. Instead, I had this severing, but you know what I really feel like it was that it was my spirit holding on to hers until the very last second, you know, and losing her was painful, and that experience was painful. But those loving memories, the reason it was painful was because it was such a wonderful, enriching, foundational relationship for me. And I don't think life on earth, you know, an earthly presence is any big impediment to us still holding on to each other now, just in a different way. But I still really feel her all the time.
It's an essential relationship with your grandmother.
Yeah.
And grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
They're essential. And if you weren't lucky enough to have it, you can become it if you have children, you know, and then you can be what you hoped you would get. But
right.
She really was instrumental in making you into the person you are, Francesca.
Absolutely. And the thing that always just astounds me about my grandmother is that, you know, we love to tell the kind of fun fact that she was the youngest of 19. As you can imagine, a dirt poor family that has had 19 children at one point, she had an incredibly tough upbringing. And she had a mom who was not the stereotypical loving Italian mom. She had a really probably exhausted, probably mentally ill, probably really, you know, abusive mom. And she did not, with no therapy, with no enlightenment, not that those things are wonderful, and if you have them, you should take advantage of them, but entirely on her own, she stopped that cycle right then. And somehow found it in her to offer the unconditional love that my mom talks about, even though she didn't have one bit of it growing up herself.
Wow.
It's amazing. And when you think about also that in terms of our family, they came here, they were illiterate. Like these are people, my father's side was illiterate in Italian and English. Like we really did our illiteracy. But it's remarkable that when they came here, it's only one generation.
Just have a moment about that, because all the Italian Americans that are listening they know what you're talking about. Right. So literacy was the issue. You became writers. You got the education.
In one generation. Right. I am a writer. That's thanks to public education and public libraries and this great country. I mean, nobody loves this country like immigrants or people like us who
We
know how
love our
precious it is.
country.
We love this country.
And we believe in our country. And you know, when I hear
Way to
people
vote,
say
vote.
you have to come the right way, my hair stands on end, and don't write in. But because every way to this country is the right way. And who the criminals are, you're always going to have criminals here and there, 1 or 2, 10 or 11. But most people are coming for that dream.
Well, and as you probably know, and people listening know, that derogatory term WAP stands for without papers.
That's right.
We were undocumented. And we're so now part of this country. You know, we're Tony Bennett. You know, it's
Helen Berolini, John Fonte, Pietro Del Donato. Just start thinking about the Italian-American legacy.
Lillo, Gates
and Fred Gardner.
Baldacci sensation.
Yeah, think about what David Baldacci has achieved.
Right. And that's thanks to what he brought and his talent and what the country, the blessings of this country. It's really amazing.
And if you go into the cooking realm, look at the names.
Right.
Think of the people. I mean, starting with Ida Boney.
Marcella Hazan, yeah.
Yeah. Rosella Rago.
I love what Francesca said about hard work, because of course, yes, there's some criminal element, as there is in every ethnicity. But there's I liked, when I saw that stuff, I started writing in 1994. I was like, you know, the answer to that stereotype isn't to shut it up, because the answer is never silence or censorship.
Right.
Especially if you're Italian American. We just love to talk more. So the antidote to bad talk is good talk. So I said, I'm going to write these heroines. The predominant thing that my heroines have in common, besides the fact they're Italian American, is that they work their butt off. They're smart and they're talented and they try and they work hard. And I think that's really, you know, who we are. I mean, I think we are that.
That is beautifully said, you two.
We're getting so carried away. I'm too
carried away because you know what? You rarely get to just speak directly to the people that we are. I mean, they have us in the family.
And the truth is,
we're familiar.
You know, we grew up with it, so we say it's Italian. I'm sure other ethnic groups, I feel like Jews are a lot like Italians. You know,
well, Jews are Italians.
Jews are Italians.
Same group.
I get people who now will read the books and go, they're always apologetic. I'm not Italian, but my mom is like your mom. I'm like, it's okay if you're not Italian. That's the point, as you know, as such a great writer, Adriana. You write about something specific and people can extrapolate it to their own experience.
That's right. They'll go, oh, you know, my family's from, you know, Dubrovnik, and they're just like yours, you know.
Right. Exactly.
Because you're just tapping into the truth.
The truth.
But there's something about the Italian culture and country and life that everybody understands. And I think it has to do with the table, la tavola, has to do with that. And it has to do with, you know, listen, there's two sides to this, but it's the loyalty. Yeah. I mean, I think people watch the mob movies, you know, for those scenes in between. I don't think they're watching them for the gunplay. They like to see people being loyal to each other and standing up for one another.
They like to see people love each other, because a crime family is still a family.
That's right.
And well, it's true.
I don't know if I fully am co-signing this, but I agree with Adriana that I think it, you know, I mean, really, Mom, you taught that incredible course at UPenn of, you know, justice and fiction, where you did feature, you know, tales that had organized crime, books about organized crime, but about how those books came about during a time in which the government, the laws, you know, were failing. And so this sort of anti-hero who has a code of ethics that is, you know, I think there is still a code of ethics, but I don't really want to defend the mafia code of ethics.
Because Italy's not like a country. Just follow my thinking on this. Right. But it's because, well, it is a country, but so many people from all around the world have gone through there, and it's the great mixing. Right. The constant mixing, and then that determination to stay together. I when you go over to Italy, and it's killing me that I can't go right now because I try to go every year. What do you find there that's missing here?
Francesca, maybe you should go first with that because you speak it and you lived there. She's the real deal.
I think it is that openness. I think it's this unusual juxtaposition of like what you're saying, which is loyalty without a closed off quality. It's not loyalty in the sense that it's hard fought intimacy. You know, people who only trust you if they've known you 100 years. It isn't quite that. There's this real openness and curiosity and welcoming quality. And yet a really strong sense also of roots. You know, when I just coincidentally was studying abroad in Abruzzo, and like my mom said, my grandmother's side of the family is Abruzzese. Wow. And they would guess it on me. I don't know if like my nose is not only Italian, but Abruzzese nose. I don't really know, but like they would guess, or I would say where my family's from. I got like special perks, but they were still just as warm and welcoming as to every single student in my program. So I don't know, it was, yeah, and that desire for connection as opposed to eschewing connection that I think is so valuable now, and especially how we've gotten the modern society, I think, you know, globally, but modern society has atomized us to a certain degree and diminished some of those more human, just for human's sake connections. You have nothing to gain from it, and other than maybe a good story at the end of the night. And I don't feel like Italy is a place that hasn't lost that sense of as much as maybe some other places have.
I think it's also about pace. You know, when I'm there, that's slowing down. Like I'm kind of hyper. I'm usually caffeinated. People think I'm like medicated. I don't know what to tell you. I'm excited. I'm Italian. This is how I am. And you're like that, Adriana. People are always like, what's up with these broads? I'm like, I don't know. We're just having fun. Why don't you just lighten up? But when I'm there, I try to bring it with me a little, like savor. I always think of the word savor. Like if you're going to eat something, eat it slower, really taste it, sit there, order, look at this sweater. Which one do you want? This one feels like it, touch it, wonder about, you know, I found myself, when I was there researching this book, and I was sort of a little bit on a schedule, but I found myself just sitting in a piazza, you know, you eat this little thing of espresso. For some reason, I can make it last like about 45 minutes. We're home, I have Dunkin' Donuts coffee. As Francesca will tell you, I get Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
She gets like a bucket and it's gone.
Extra cream, extra sugar. If you call me at like 10:30, I'm almost unbearable. She's like, you're mean on caffeine. I'm like,
we come from centuries of people that ate cake and coffee for breakfast, okay?
Right.
If you bring out the dessert from last night, you're fine when you have your relatives over.
Right. I'm over there ordering eggs. What do you want an egg for?
Why would you eat an egg now?
Exactly. So I think that—
get a piece of cake and a cup of coffee with sugar in it.
Yeah, really. But Francesca's the good espresso person. I'm too into sugar too. I can't, she drinks espresso.
Well, you can put sugar in your espresso.
I want a lot of sugar. I want like sugar with a side order of espresso.
She wants you know, coffee ice cream melted down and heated up.
I love it.
Well,
what is that, affogato?
She makes fun of my wine choices when we go to a restaurant. We go on a vacation together, and she's like, I have one wine that I love, which is Lambrusco. It's what I sent you.
It's what you sent me. Oh, we're drinking it, baby.
That I have a cold.
For the record, I don't make fun of the Lambrusco.
You make it cold. We have it cold. I know you're not supposed to, but
no, you are supposed to.
You are supposed to.
My dad used to have it cold, and so when we came, I put it in the fridge before we came.
Right.
You have a question for us, dear?
Yeah, we got a few that come. Well, first of all, it's not surprising that the adoration that is coming in for all three of you is pretty
Don't
incredible.
give us any bad news.
No bad news. No bad news. You guys are loved by all. Not only in the States, we're getting it from Italy as well. You guys are worldwide loved. So I don't think anybody is surprised by that.
Anybody single writing in?
I was going to say that, but I was like,
I don't know if they're single or not.
Your jokes. Go ahead.
No, we've gotten a few questions in. And well, someone just wrote in that Lambrusco is awesome. People are wondering where the other side of your family is if they're not from Abruzzo. And then also for Francesca, they're wondering where in Abruzzo did you study?
Oh,
Okay, you go first.
I was in Vasto, which is like a beach town, and then I was also in the Marche region in Fermo.
And that's where my father's from. My father's Marchigian.
Okay, perfect.
They're
I know.
bankers.
There you go, people.
They're tax collectors, right? I know.
My dad's side is Napolitano, but
Okay.
my
I
mom.
swear we're going to find out we're cousins.
Well, and then the other question is, Adriana mentioned in the beginning that you two are from Philly, and so is Miles here. So actually, we've gotten a bunch of questions in, ranging from tasty cakes to cheesesteaks. And I wanted to know if we had any favorite cheesesteak places, and then if you guys had a favorite tasty cake.
Ooh. Well, my favorite tasty cake is the chocolate cupcakes, which are unreal great, like unreal great. And my favorite cheesesteak, you know what? I'm gonna say Jim Steaks. Now I'm a vegetarian now because I love all animals. I can't bring myself to eat them anymore. But
Please don't say that, because first, still, we're all getting there.
I know, no, I don't want to give you guilt. I just can't. I have to just represent though.
I mean, a meatball. You got to give up meatballs.
I have given up meatballs. I know.
No dietary restrictions don't count on the holidays.
But Jim Steaks, unreal with onions. I can't even. I can smell
with
it.
onion, people. What about, do you get whiz? No whiz? Provolone?
Whiz, and provolone if I'm really showing off.
Okay.
I love provolone.
Okay. Francesca?
I love the tasty cakes. Are they the crumpets?
Mm-hmm. The crumpets, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have, I used to, when I would have people over to watch the Phillies, the Eagles, I would make cheesesteaks. I would copy the way they did it pretty much, like just take roast beef, toss it in a pan, and melt the nice provolone cheese. So I feel like I only go to the cheesesteak places when people are visiting from out of town so they can have the Philly experience. Honestly, the sub sandwich heroes, as they call them, what they are is hoagies. It's a hoagie, people. It's a Wawa hoagie, and a Wawa hoagie is Italian hoagie. Extra sweet peppers, little bit of oil, no mayo. That is if I had a cheat day, I still eat fish, I'm not full veggie, but if I have my little cheat day, I want a Wawa hoagie with a little bit of oil and extra sweet peppers.
It's so funny because I loved The Sopranos, and I just remember when he would go to the refrigerator and he would say the gabagool, and I'm like, I never heard anyone say that outside my family. And then I realized the word they're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is capicola.
Capicola, but they say gabagool.
Gabagool
Gabagool is also coffee with a lot of milk in it.
Really? I didn't know that.
What about Miles? What about you? You're a Philly guy.
I can't say that I have a preference. Any of them, really. I probably have some old Phillies hats from when you'd go to the ballpark and you'd get a free hat and it says Tasty Cake on the back of it. I'm probably in my closet somewhere. Crawl space, I could dig them out. I do have a really good answer for the cheesesteaks, though.
Okay.
It's a hole in the wall. And really, if you go in there, it's really small, and there may be actual holes in the wall. Is D'Alessandro's, I'm sure they'll appreciate me saying that part, but D'Alessandro's on Henry Avenue.
Yes.
The best.
I know it. In fact, I just saw an article about it the other day.
Yes.
I'll send it to you.
Yes, it is. It flies under the radar a little bit, but the people who know, I only found it out because I had a really good friend who moved out to I grew up in the suburbs, and he moved out from Philly, and we met freshman year, and so he knew all the spots, and that was his spot, so he turned me onto that spot.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
You guys know Palumbo's?
Yes, we know Palumbo's. That's my best friend's restaurant.
We
And
talked
it's in
about
your
that
book.
with Chris Carlo, yes.
Oh my God, their food was amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
I love that all people want to ask about and talk about his food. This is
I know. As soon as the Italians hear about you guys are from Philly, they want to know what you guys are.
Did you get the sauce or gravy question yet?
We haven't gotten the sauce or gravy question.
It's gravy. It's
Somebody's
gravy.
gonna send it in now.
But I will
There you
tell you,
go.
when I started to put it in my books, we have copy editors. They're people who read the book and they tell you, you're wrong. which I hate to hear. I'd say just stet, which is, I'm not wrong, shut up. And they would not let me put gravy in the early books. And then I got letters saying, you say you're Italian, why do you call it sauce? And I actually ended up putting my aunt's luncheonette, which is at 9th and Wolf, was at 9th and Wolf. And I pretended in the book that there was a church there. And people started writing me, you think you're from South Philly. You know, when you go to 9th and Wolf, you open the door and a lady with no teeth answers. And it's not, and I'm like, it's not a church. I'm like, that's my aunt. Okay,
Yeah, watch it.
my aunt, back off. My Aunt Rachel. Ray's Luncheonette, 9th and Wolf was my
That's
aunt.
hysterical.
He made great cheesesteaks.
Well, I have a question for you too. Because so our organization, right, Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, and we're talking a lot about heritage and what gets passed on.
Right.
But aside from heritage, lots of things get passed on.
Right.
For you two, it's pretty apparent. Not just the talent, but the love for writing. So I was wondering, from both of your points of view, but especially from your point of view, Francesca, when did you start to love writing, and how did you grow to love it through your mom? What type of relationship do you have to writing through your mom?
Well, you know, I always say that I'm so lucky that I was born not to a best-selling author, but to a beginning one. Because when I was born, she was, you know, a lawyer and a judicial clerk and different things like that. So I got to watch her build this writing career and pursue a dream and build it brick by brick. And that was so inspiring. It was so demystifying. You know, it wasn't just like, she wasn't already this big name on the shelf. I saw how that happens, the perseverance, the work ethic, like I talked about. And, you know, another thing I talk about is I was little, but she wrote for like 5 years, worked on a first novel that never got published. And she always tells it as part of that. She's open about this, tells it about her origin story, that she sent it to a zillion agents and got rejected. And it's always this kind of really heartwarming, funny, self-deprecating part of her story. But whenever I hear her tell it, what's so funny is that when I think back as a kid, I don't remember that period of rejection and struggle. It didn't feel like that to me. It didn't even create a ripple in our home life. And all I saw was that she worked on something for a very long time, and then she dusted herself off and started on a different book, a new book. And it really taught me by demonstration, you know, because I was 5, 6, I was too little to explain it to. But she showed me by example that failure is an event, not a definition. It is just something you move on from. You go forward, you try again, you try it different, you learn from that, you know, and that I think has been the most empowering lesson to learn in writing or in anything in my life. That you don't feel like you have to maintain this perfect, pristine past to have a wonderful, happy future. You don't. You can always come back. You can always bounce and be even better. And you know, a stumble might just be the first step to your success story. And I really learned that watching my mom.
Aww.
Wow.
I know. I love these kids.
Did your love for writing develop when you're young? Were you writing stories to kind of imitate your mom? Kind of like you see like kids trying to imitate their dad if they're
I don't know if it was that
something.
one-to-one, because I don't know if I had that much of a conception at that young age of what exactly she was doing on the computer. But I think it was more just a value in our family of telling a great story, not at the computer, but like I said, telling it at the dinner table, you know, thinking through everything, pursuing fun experiences. And what I did see loud and clear was her love for what she did, that it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to work. It was exciting. It was interesting. She would talk to me about plots. And I joke, we used to have kind of grim dinner conversations where just casually she'd be musing and be like, do you think you could die from falling down the stairs, or would you think someone had to be pushed? Do they have to be pushed? You know, but that's, if you're a crime fiction author, that's for a mother, you might be just bouncing those ideas around. But it was just this love for it, and pointedly a real flexibility in her lifestyle. You know, family is so important. And here I had my mom who was working harder than I'd ever seen her work, but she still got to come see me in every musical, you know, take me to every lesson, she was so present in my life. And that, you know, once I was older and really thinking about what type of writing I would want to pursue, I said, you know, that's a career that I would love, because I know I can give it my all, satisfy my ambition, try my darndest, no compromises, and still really be there for a future family and still be able to cook my eggplant parm.
You're very smart, Francesca, because it's true.
Yeah.
Your mother modeled that for you, so you know, and you got to make these goals.
Right.
Because there's windows in your life, and you don't want to just get your foot stuck in it. You want to get all the way in. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really plan. You got to plan. You really do, because it flies by.
No.
But I feel like there was a lot of luck and maybe, somebody looking out for me, because I got into it because I was divorced when she was born, frankly, and I really wanted to be home with her. And I thought, well, how can I make a living and raise a child?
As a lawyer.
You can't. As a trial, people can do it, so I'm not criticizing anyone. But I loved being with her. So I was like, I just worked while she was at school, and I was at home. I've always been home. I never go out. This pandemic is horrible, but quarantine, I'm like, this is not a big difference for me.
And you're right, we never went on vacation.
Went on vacation. She's always like, people go on vacation. I'm like, they do? Why? It's a nice house. Relax. That's the other thing I think that it's so Italian. Like, don't sweat anything. It goes to my mother with who needs it, but it's a little bit like we tend to, or at least I have, sometimes I'll say if I'm getting wound up about something, because when you write, you also have a business to run, and you're trying to do well and trying to do better. And here I'm writing Eternal. This is a culmination in a lot of, you get, what's the cover look like? And so there's agita. And sometimes I say, I've said to her, I know, just remember you're Italian. Like we let stuff roll off our back, man. We don't carry it around. And you don't need it, and you don't need to carry it around. That just give it a shot. Like the first book, a total failure, fall on your face. I don't care, tell everybody. You're divorced twice. I don't care, tell everybody. I don't think it's a failure. I think I took a couple of shots, didn't work out. Look at that kid, she's awesome. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. I sell to myself too, but I do think it is, I know that I got it from our culture. I know that I got it from our culture. I can't take any credit for it. I was raised with it. Nobody hit the fight.
You lump in marriage, you got this beautiful daughter out of it. So you would lump that in with everything other experience in life. It's not.
I always think of my mother was a great.
Frankly, I think it's luck. A lot of it.
Who knows? You're still married.
I'm telling you.
But
he's handy, and that's why he's still here. If he was not handy, maybe we'd be thinking other things. But I'm saying to you that listen, as somebody who is still married, this is a luck situation here.
Well, you are the chef. So I have your cookbook, so I know I've made your recipes. And I sometimes get that image in my head. When Francesca and I are baking together, I go, there's an ingredient, you fold it in. There's an ingredient, an egg, flour, nutmeg. That's what your life is like a little. I think it just gets all folded in. There's some things that are great. There's some things that ain't so great. And in the end, there it is, all part of the whole. You can't separate it out, and you wouldn't. Just the same big dessert.
Wow. That's another great
I lost my mind.
I think it's the metaphor, but I will just have to out my mom that she's an improvisational baker is what I call it. And really baking requires precision.
It's tough to do. It's tough to improvise.
All of her baked excursions are the most successful, but when I was living in Italy, it was I think it was 2006 when they won the World Cup. Italy won the World Cup. They were playing against the German team, and every single person, no matter who you talk to, it was like they all had the same talking point somehow, just inherently, and they all said, "I tedeschi sono molto preciso." The Germans, totally precise, great skills, but the Italian, the Azzurri, hanno cuore, they've got heart. Ooh, my mom is like that with baking. I think you need to be a little bit more German to be a great baker. But, the improvisational cooking in general delicious.
But I like the Italian way of solving things. I don't know if you saw the video today, but there was a scene of the Italian parliament or whatever, and somebody wasn't wearing a mask. And they just walked over all the other parliamentarians and carried him out. They just physically removed him. There are no calling security, no rules, no discussion. You going out.
No subtweet, not just like
No
a snarky
subtweet,
tweet.
no hairy eyeball, no, should I say put the mask on, should I not? They're like,
There you go.
this.
I just picked him up and threw him out.
They just threw him
I
out.
love it.
It's on the video today. It's so funny.
Well, guys, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Like, was there I feel terrible. We've just going, this is the best time. I'm embarrassed.
Really,
this
we have
has
no
been-
idea what time it is.
This has been amazing.
Oh yeah, we definitely blew through the 20 to 30 minute window.
Oh, I think we did.
It's been a
That's
fun-
okay. That's okay.
it's been
Well,
fun, and
well-
I'm sure everyone really enjoyed it, and I think they just love enjoying seeing your personalities. Not all writers have personalities, but a lot of them do, and I think everyone really enjoys, getting to know you, especially when they've gotten to know you through your writing.
Absolutely.
That's very nice of you
Yeah.
to say. Well, this is really us unplugged.
These are two exemplary Italian-American women.
Oh, as are you, Adriana. We love you very much, and we're very grateful to you for having us tonight. This is just
Are you kidding?
Hey,
Superstars.
Francesca, I have my copy right here. It's been here. I'm like this
You.
much.
Oh,
we'll send you a
Are Italians known for portion control? They give you
Really?
a whole meal.
We
And-
really have to say, get ready for Eternal in March.
Right.
What's
Yes.
the pub date?
March 23rd, I think. I should know.
And
So
I just want to say, I love, like I said, I love that connection. So if your book
23rd.
club reads Ghosts of Harvard, I'm happy to Zoom with your book club and we can have a fun discussion of the book. That request form is
Love
on
it.
my website on francescasaratella.com. And so I would love to meet you and talk about what you thought of the book if your group gets a chance to read it.
And is the best place to buy, Adriana, you too, Lisa, Francesca, is the best place to pick up your books on your websites, Amazon? Is there a preference or
We'd
just?
like you to go to independent bookstores. So let's name a few. The Bookmark Shop in Brooklyn, Kenny's Books and
Right.
Greetings in, I forget the name of the town. It's New Jersey. Let's keep going. Barnes and
Cleveland
Noble.
and
if you like
Bryn Mawr.
Magic, Browse About, and Rehoboth.
Books are
Sound Books and Music, Browse About in Rehoboth,
Word Bookstore in
Bromans in Pasadena, California,
in
people,
Pennsylvania.
Owls,
And if you don't know,
Loganberry Books.
Scottsdale.
Oh, see, just write them down. Loganberry Books.
Murder by the
Chicago,
Book in
Ohio.
Dallas,
Politics and Prose in DC.
Politics and Prose in
Fountain Bookstore in Richmond, Virginia. Fountain
One More
Bookstore.
Page in Arlington,
great good place for books in California.
Shakespeare and Co.
Oh yeah, Rake Straw.
Anything local to you, it's so important to support.
Anderson's in Chicago.
Anderson's,
Up in Milwaukee, who are they now? I go up there every year when we could tour.
Left
And it
Bank
went
Book
from
in St.
chapter
Louis,
13 to the
Milwaukee.
mystery something.
Oh yeah, chapter 13.
Mhm.
Politics and Prose, I saw, I went to a reading of David Baldacci, and he told the story that he told last night about how he was David Ford in Italy. And he mentioned you, Lisa, because he's like, well, what did Lisa Scottolini go with? And they're like, well, Lisa Scott. And I was like, oh, that was easy.
They changed it. I know. In Italy, they said they wanted books by Medagan, so they changed it from
Guess what I
Scottoline to
did?
Scott. I'm like,
I refused, so I wasn't published there for a long time.
really?
What am I going to call myself? I couldn't think of a good name.
They didn't give me a choice. There was no refusing. But good for you, Adriana. Well, now you
I
are.
just said no. I said, come on now. Really? And I could have used my husband's name, but when I put it together, I said, it sounds like I don't even know what.
Oh yeah, my mom didn't let me go incognito. Like this is the most great, the Italian gravy's all over my name for sure.
Well,
Well, if I knew she was going to be a writer, I wouldn't have given her such a long name. I mean, and
No,
her
it's
middle name is my last name.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Like,
It's
there's,
beautiful.
we take up a lot. We're like menus on the covers of these books.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a shoe company.
Adriana, we love your books, everything you write, and your
Oh,
cookbooks as well.
I
I met
love
your
you
mom.
so much.
I met your
Well,
mom.
guys, before we sign off, we're also gonna let people know where they can follow Order Sons and Daughters of Italy. So you can go to osia.org.
Something big just happened.
Yeah.
I shared the screen so everyone can see. So if you're interested in becoming a member, go to osia.org. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. And guys, on that note, from Miles and I, and on behalf of the whole Order Sons and Daughters of Italy in America, Adriana, thank you for joining us as a guest host. Francesca, Lisa, it was an absolute pleasure to have you guys on, and we had such a good time, and we can't thank you enough.
So much.
Happy Heritage Month. Happy Italian Heritage
Happy Heritage Month. There's so much to celebrate. Music, art, just like Adriana said, and above all, celebrate Adriana.
Well, thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, everybody. Good night.